oil strategic reserve, right? You stoked a lot of enthusiasm in that crypto bull market. The Russian president, though, Vladimir Putin, he earlier said this month that the current U.S. administration was undermining the role of the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency in the global economy by using it for political purposes, forcing many countries to turn to alternative assets. At least that's what he said, right? They're looking at turning to cryptocurrencies. There are skeptics, though, with Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell likening Bitcoin to gold earlier this month. Analysts also point out that any such move will take time to implement. I think we still need to be cautious on a Bitcoin strategic reserve and at least consider that it is not likely to happen anytime soon, said Chris Weston, head of research at Pepperstone. And we often get questions sent to us on the cow phone about the dollar versus Bitcoin. Can we support both? Can you support both? Isn't the dollar influenced more by the deep state while crypto retains its autonomy and answers really to no one? All great questions on the cow phone. And with today's spike in the Bitcoin price, we thought we'd get our next guest take on it. Please welcome to the show, Rebecca Walser, Walser Wealth Management down in Tampa, Florida. Thank you for taking the time out today, Rebecca. Okay. I mean, we've had about, $40,000 put on the Bitcoin price with no real change in the fundamentals of Bitcoin, but just a lot of hype, and the latest being this crypto reserve. What say you?
Oh gosh, Scott, this is such a sensitive topic. I will label it sensitive because on the one hand, I absolutely believe in new asset classes and there is a new scope and breadth. This is the beginning of the frontier, and I do believe cryptocurrency has a long trajectory. So from the perspective of a very, very long game, I do believe that clients should look at crypto and have some of it in their portfolio. That being said, it is extremely speculative right now. This Biden administration was very anti-crypto. Gary Gensler, SEC, multiple actions against crypto. But then you have to look at the democratization of cryptocurrency, right? So now it's inside of ETFs. So instead of being able to get your hard, cold storage wallet or your online, exchange and buy Bitcoin yourself, now you're going through your brokerage firm to buy Bitcoin in an ETF. So now we have price correlations that maybe we didn't have before Bitcoin was in ETFs, where It will more closely follow the market. But to be honest, this is something that we do not understand how it originated. If you believe that one Japanese man created this situation in 2009 at the end of the global financial crisis and made it so that it halves every so often, and yet we would never be able to locate this guy and ever question him. I have a really, a bridge in the middle of the ocean that I'd like to sell you. So there's that. There is that. There is something a little bit off about the origination story. Now, a lot of people want to say it doesn't matter because it's on the blockchain. We can completely track what's going on, and therefore it's not manipulatable. I'm not going to disagree with that, but I will say that the origination does matter because we don't know all the things that are inside of that Bitcoin algorithm and how it might eventually be impacted. So it's still a concern from a perspective of strategy long term. But yes, I do think it's a long play. But here's something I want to say that's more fundamental, Scott, to the U.S. dollar. And that is this. If you have Senator Loomis basically introducing the Bitcoin Reserve Act of 2024, if you have a President Trump-elect coming out and saying we will and do look to a crypto reserve, that is saying something about the U.S. dollar.
Right.
That is saying something about the U.S. dollar. And that is the message that Americans cannot miss. The message is that the dollar is no longer self-sufficient as a standalone global reserve, that we need to start backing it up now by something that's not changeable, completely trackable on the blockchain, and that says something. So that is the bigger message. Bitcoin in and of itself is not the end-all be-all, will not save this republic, absolutely not. And the fact that we have to start looking outside of ourselves for a reserve tells us a lot.
So well said. So let me kind of put a little bow on what you just said. Number one, I like, as a wealth manager, you were a little reticent to come out 100% for it because that means you're prudent. Your customers should not have more than, say, 5 or 10% of their investable assets in it, something that they can afford to lose all of and not change their minds about where they're going with their saving. That's fantastic. But you're right. The bigger point is that, there are still some very significant banks and people that haven't come out for this. They don't get a big voice, but I've seen television where Morgan Stanley, wealth managers are asked about it. They can't comment on it, nor can they say where they think it's going. So it's still, you're right, in its infancy, and it's terribly the Dutch tulips of 500 years ago still, right? Because it's 106,000, 105,000 today. That could be 50,000 in no time. Maybe it goes to 150, but nothing's significantly changed about the Bitcoin to make it rally as much as it has as of late. Just the fact that we've had the playing field change a little bit with Donald Trump, the strategic reserve. So I got to say, from my heart of hearts, I like how you said it because I can tell you're coming at it from a safe point of view, is you got to be very, very careful. And the message that it's sending about the dollar, because we've had people write into our cow phone going, well, isn't this the way to, get rid of the dollar, and the dollar can be controlled by the government and they can ruin it, and this can't? But you know what? What do we really know about Bitcoin? That's a really good statement.
You know what? And we've had no proof of concept, Scott. If you look at even just the 2022, right, Bitcoin was more correlated to stocks than we had previously seen. So we don't have a proof of concept through a recession or a depression where we see that it is non-correlated to equities, and it will still perform as we would expect a reserve asset to perform when the equity side of the house is coming down in a bearish market. So the fact that we don't have proofs of concept, the fact that the origination story has so many holes in it, therefore, how could it be a risk-off asset? For Jerome Powell to call this digital gold recently after post-Trump's election, that was a little bit alarming myself. So I got to say to your viewers that are that smart to put the 2 + 2 = 4 together, you're right. The fact that we are starting to look outside of the U.S. dollar for a reserve is very, very, very telling.
I agree.
And there's just not enough data for us to say that this is not a risk-off. This is not a risk-off asset. We do not know that it is a risk-off, like a digital gold would be a risk-off asset. We do not know that to be the case with Bitcoin.
Oh, boy, you couldn't have said it better. Fantastic stuff, as usual. Thank you very much for not traveling today so you could be on our show. Rebecca Walser from Walser Wealth Management down in Tampa.